Hi, my name is Chai, and I want to talk about my first year of parenting, coming from a guy perspective. I think it's been a really interesting journey. I'm having a lot of fun as a parent on my first year. So I want to cover a few things that I went through, like literally one, probably like time frames, so like a chunk of months, and a few things I didn't go through, which I was really lucky. So one of the things I'll probably cover that didn't have to cover, but I didn't go through was that my wife and I didn't have to go through was postpartum, and I think part of it was because we discussed a lot of things, and we also just talked a lot and made sure she was okay mentally and physically, understand what was going on with her. And all the time I would not ask her constantly, but I would always check up and ask her, hey, are you okay? Is there anything we should do? Are you feeling anything different? Just to make sure that we're on the same page and things are moving smoothly. So to cover my first year, like I'll literally cover the basics. So we were really exhausted. It could be very stressful. We're super grateful and we're blessed to have our son. We had a lot of bonding time, and just due to this time in general. But we already planned prior, when before she was giving birth, how we sort of want our day to day to be, or how we were spending our day, or how we were doing things, to make sure that we had the most efficient time together with our son. It was just, people just thought, oh, we were just lucky to have a really good life or stuff like that. No, it's not. We did a lot of planning to make sure that we were gonna have as much time as possible with each other, and we want to make sure our time was not like separate or in chunks, or however it is, to make sure that we secured our time. So to cover the first 3 months, like the first from birth to 3 months, it was really interesting. Like we learned a lot of new information. It was just, but for me specifically, like, of course, like, no sleep. That's obvious. I got no sleep. But because the 2 hour time frame, so babies need to be awake. No, babies need to be fed every 2 hours. So I was making sure my wife was waking up every 2 hours. But I didn't just like left it to my wife to say, hey, this is you. This is on your own. I made sure, because she was also nursing. So when you're nursing, it's so much work on them. So I did all my best I can to help her. And it's not just like, okay, I wake her up. It was literally going to do dishes. Nobody trusts my cooking apparently, so didn't really cook, but in general, covered of more just done the dishes, make sure she had all the tools that she needed. Anything she asked was pretty much done. Or once we got into routine, I figured out, okay, we're in a routine now, and then I figured I just go do it instead of waiting for her to tell me, because getting things done ahead, it just makes it a lot better for both parties, and she gets to relax. So I did whatever I can. I would even wake up early before the time that she needs to nurse, or the time that she needs to feed the baby, just to make sure that she just has to wake up and just spend the time with the baby as much as she can. Learning about baby things was really, really interesting. Like the basic ones would be like babies don't like see, or they don't know how to use their hands, or so these things are so new. We're so used to doing it that we forgot that, oh, okay, these things needs to be taught to babies, or they're just learning what the baby could do or what he or she cannot do. So that was really, really fun to watch over time. Learning a lot of new things about mom, like what the woman's body go through, was also amazing. To see how much my wife was able to pump out breast milk was nuts. Like we had to buy 2 freezers. We had a mini freezer, and then the mini freezer filled up in literally less than like a month. And then the second freezer, we had to buy like a 5-footer just to make sure that we could fill up for the next 9 months. Because when you deep freeze breast milk, it lasts for 9 months, and it has so much benefits out of it. We did constant room adjustments, like a lot of room adjustments. And these room adjustments weren't like, oh, okay, we just moved the furniture here and there. We went from having a bassinet, and literally he grew out of the bassinet in probably 3 weeks or a month. Then we removed him from the bassinet, and then we added his crib, and then from there we adjusted our bed. And we didn't, by the way, we have not used our bedroom in 1 year. So in the last year, my wife and I have not used our own bedroom. We've been sleeping with our son, and some people are sort of against that idea. and they want, you know, separation, which is okay. I understand how everyone, we just want, you know, we just wanted time with our son. Now we sleep on the same bed as our son. But anyway, okay, so back to the first 3 months. We were constantly making room adjustments from like furniture, anything that was able to move. It was just, for me, it was just more of efficiency, how to use the room. I didn't like to be cluttered. I didn't like there's no way to move, so we're constantly making changes, whether it's just moving one piece here or clearing the room or making sure like there's more space in the area, like the living room, there's more space, so that way we can move efficiently. There's no sound, it doesn't be too loud, we're not fiddling to looking for stuff. So everything is set up to make sure that it's just easy grab and go, or even our backpacks, like to grab and go really as quick as possible. But I'll tell you a funny story about that. Was we didn't know what to really do or what to expect, so we constantly have to make adjustments, like I was telling you earlier. Random incidents are pretty could be pretty nerve-wracking, such as when he gets sick, or if he so the one we had an issue was his belly button. His belly button didn't come off properly. First time parents, so the doctor said it should come out in like a week, so we didn't know what to expect. It came off, but it came off really weird. We thought it was pus, or we didn't think it was just, it didn't look normal. So, and this happened on the weekend, and we drove all the way to this recommended night pediatrician, and she just didn't help us out, and she just said, I'm not touching that because she doesn't know what to do. And then we went over to the hospital. We drove across town to go to the hospital to find out there was nothing wrong on like a Saturday, and then Monday came around, we went back to our pediatrician, and then she just took care of it. Like nothing was normal, and she was like, hey, it's normal, you're first time parents, you're supposed to freak out, and it's good that you care. So that was also a lot of planning like involved with this one. Was just ahead of time was picking emergency places. That was like, having emergency places in hand was really nervous for me because I don't know where to go. I mean, of course they're gonna say, hey, every emergency place should have a pediatrician, a doctor who knows how to take care of kids, but I'm just, I mean, it sounds really bad, but I just wasn't confident, because after like going to our pediatrician at night, it was just not as what I thought. I was like, oh, okay, well, they didn't handle it as much as I thought they did, but that was our first 3 months. It was just literally, but I can get into details later. Maybe I'll do another video of like that first 3 months or sections of it. But this is just an overview of what I went through, and it was definitely very interesting the first 3 months. So going to 4 to 6 months, we found out later. So the doctor tells us, hey, he could sleep not 2 hours anymore. He could sleep 6 hours, no problem. 7 hours, no problem. 6-7 hours straight. So we're like, okay, cool. We could definitely do that. So we had one night he slept 4, and of course we're not used to that. So now we're like checking in on him. Well, I'm checking on him a lot, and then next thing you know, he has eczema, and I'm stressed because he's not what's it called? He's not sleeping well because his skin is itchy, everything's just dry. I'm feeling so sad now because now we go back to sleeping every 2 hours again because he's so itchy. Like literally he wakes up every 2 to 3 hours just scratching. We have to put so much lotion, we have to put so much cream, and I'm still trying to help my wife. So to make it clear, my wife is breast pumping every 3 hours exactly. Anything further at that time, it's just more of, it just gets really bad on her. Like her body just doesn't react well. So now there's like 2 strings to stress about. I'm trying to make sure that my wife is okay, so we have to make sure all the stuff is ready, and she's losing sleep. Like she's losing more sleep than I am, and I'm lucky enough sometimes she'll say, hey, sleep through because you need to get up. And at this point I've given up like a lot of personal time, so like didn't really take care of my health anymore. What's it called? didn't really do anything personal stuff, just more like spending time with my son as much as I can. And at this rate, I just went back to work. So the first 3 months, actually, I made sure that I didn't go to work. I took like time off, and I got paid for 2, and the third one I didn't. But we financially set it up that way so I could spend as much time as possible. I want to make sure I helped my wife as much as possible, so that way she's not struggling. And after like taking 3 months off, I'm so glad I did, because I would be really stressed, because the first month we barely got any sleep. So imagine doing it one person by themselves. So it's just really, really tough. And now I'm glad I took the 3 months off. So going to a fourth month, my mom lives with us, by the way, to make sure everyone understands. It was easier, yes, but we only made sure my mom did specific things, like watching him at night. I mean, she could play with him if she wants to. It's there. But the only task that we really cared for was when it came to nighttime, because my wife and I worked both at night. My wife went back to work, I think, the 4th month, and then we were carpooling, so we worked the same shift. And the reason why we kept it that way was because we could spend more efficient time together. We didn't want to lose that gap. People are like, okay, well, if you don't want to burden your mom, then you should just have 2 separate shifts. But we discussed this really thoroughly, that it was better for us to have one shift together, and that way we're spending the most time with him, because he sleeps at night, and we made a really strict rule that he would sleep at 7 at night, 8 at night, at latest 9 p.m. But people are like, oh, why is it so early? It's just because we wanted to make sure that that's the routine. And he wakes up anyway at 7 in the morning, so we made, it's not like we're strictly waking up at 7 in the morning. It's just because he wakes up to poop at that time, 7, and by that time I wake up, because I want to make sure that my wife gets as much rest. Even if Mishi has to pump breast milk, she'll pump, but I'll still get up to make sure that, hey, he's okay, like, he's doing something with me. And then she gets the breast milk, she gets to pump the breast milk, and then she goes back to nap if she needs to. So usually I convince her to go nap, that way she gets some rest. Okay, so my son was on a more strict diet, because by the time we got to the 6th month, well, we were on a strict diet. What I was doing a lot, what we were discussing a lot, was we wanted to make sure that he was eating efficiently, and but we weren't like, shove fooding in his mouth saying, hey, this is what you have to eat. We just didn't spoon fed him as much, because what's it called, he was not ready to eat yet, obviously. We couldn't give him water until 6 months. Yeah, 6 months we didn't give him water, so he was just drinking strictly breast milk. So a lot of it was just helping as much as I can. As you could tell so far, it didn't seem like it's a solo job for me, but in general, we just try to do things together. We communicated a lot in between, because we discussed it things week by week, month by month. It seems like we're over planning, but it was just to make, and then people are like, oh, it's your first time parents, so yeah, that's why you're covering so much. I'm like, it seems that way, but it's just based on my personality. I like to be in the know with my wife, and I tell my wife all the time, we need to talk about this stuff. And going back, like, no postpartum still, which was really, like, I was really lucky, and we discussed this a lot, and I told her very specifically why, because I have a lot of parents tell me, or other parents tell me, saying, hey, you should watch for postpartum, be careful. So to make sure that, well, I did the best I can to make sure that she wasn't going through, or if she was going through postpartum, I told her to tell me if something was different. Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling you're sad? If you need to talk about it, if you don't need to talk about it, please, make sure it's not serious when you're not telling me something. Or if you need to go do some activity, please say so, that way, we are doing something. So I never had this idea like, oh, you need to be consolidate, like, you need to be locked in a room or locked in a house. This is how our life is now for a whole year. No, we were doing activities on the side. So I told whatever we discussed on the table was on, like, we put it in action. Like, we took him snowboarding. Well, of course he didn't snowboard, but we took him to the mountain when he was like 6 months. And then at that point, we just started traveling with him as much as we could. So, okay, now going 6 months to 1 year. This is where things sort of turn around, but in such a weird way that we didn't think it was gonna go this direction. And due to like COVID-19, obviously, like, our whole agenda just changed rapidly. really fast. Like it went from like what's it called, spending time at home, like what's it called, going to work, to like no work. But anyway, so from 6 months forward, we had to. He was breaking out, and obviously, as a parent, we're trying to figure out what is going on with him. And the hard part was this: we found out that not just he had eczema, but now he's allergic to eggs. He's allergic to pork, beef, orange, milk, cow milk, obviously dairy. He's allergic to corn, wheat. I'm missing one more. I can't remember the top of my head, but usually I'll just if I remember when I read the ingredients. Yeah, so he's on this strict diet, like gluten free, no dairy, and my wife added organic, so I'm okay with it. This is definitely okay. People are like, oh, you're gonna go overboard with the food, and I'm like, well, the organic was just something that my wife wanted, and I said, okay, no big deal. I can understand that. The only thing I really care for was I had to make sure it was just gluten free and dairy. So I would always check all the time if it was gluten free, no dairy, and corn. Sorry, corn. Corn was like such a big issue, and we didn't know until we went to get blood tests, and then he just came out with this list. And I had some of those allergies. Like I'm allergic to milk. Milk in general is like the biggest allergy. I think it's a very normal thing for Asians to be lactose, I think. But his skin would just turn red, and we would just struggle with the idea, like, hey, this is not what we're looking for. I don't know where, like, how we're gonna go through with this. And my son had to change his diet too. So my wife, actually, as a family, we just had the same diet pretty much at this point. We didn't really eat anything different than our son, so that way it was just easier to cook and keep in consistency in grocery shopping. We made travel plans, a lot of travel plans. Actually, I made a lot of travel plans because I didn't want to just be stuck at home. And people were like, oh, you shouldn't travel. Well, we were testing things out. I was a big fan of testing, and we get to try a lot of things. And I noticed, if you're gonna notice a lot of we, is because everything we do is actually discussed on the table. Like it's not one of those like, oh, I am the guy, so now I have to like take initiative. It's not. I like the idea we're always in the know. I don't like the idea that it's just, oh, my decision. It's not. We discuss everything that's in plan, so it's not just, hey, we could do it. Like I could do it. Okay, I could do it. It's never that way. It's literally, hey, can we do this as a family? Can we move as a family? Will it be too much trouble for her? Is it easy? It's gonna be easier for me. Can I do it? Can she do it? So it's not that way. It's more of like, hey, can we do it? Can we distribute the workload, without stressing on each other? Like, hey, or we gotta get angry. So there's a lot of planning when we're making trips. So usually I just have a list of trips that we want to go, and then she's like, okay, can we do it? So we did a lot of road trips in general, because we want to experiment flying, because we want to fly home to Thailand, but we just did a lot of driving. So meaning we just drove around long periods of time, like going to LA, going to Utah, going to any place, like an hour drive, 2 hour drive, 3 hours. So we sort of pushed it that way. We get to see how he reacts and how we're handling the situation. It's a lot of trial and error, and we made a lot of mistakes. It's not like a mistake that's so bad. It's just more of like, oh, he's hungry and we left too late, or we made the stop too long, or he's in the car too long, or he didn't get to do much, or my wife didn't pump the breast milk. So now I have to constantly think on my feet, like, okay, where do we stop? Do we stop? Do we just go? Do we need to change them? Do we need to do any adjustments that needs to happen? So there's a lot of things that go through. What's it called? But all this changes all the time. There's constant adjustments. So there's a lot of adapting and just making fixes all the time. And when we go out to restaurants, we have to prepare food for him. So it's not just like, oh, very quick, like, just snacks. We don't do snacks. We have snacks, but in general, we just make sure that he's checking his meal. But sometimes we'll eat, sometimes we'll just play. So there's a lot of improving. So overall, for me, I just don't, I did a lot of changes in my life in general, and it's not bad. I just made sacrifices for now because I'm waiting. Hopefully my son could run, and then that way we could go play and run around. I've been waiting for this moment to, like, he just run everywhere and take him anywhere. So that's something, it's just for me. But overall, like, on my part, I just did as much as I can to help, and it's definitely not easy. I have to say, being a parent, of course, but at the same time, for the guys, I do recommend, like, talking to other guys, talking to other families. I was contacting other families, like, asking them for not tips or advice, but like what would they, well, I guess you could say it's tips and advice, but what they were doing. And I just wanted their feedback to see like, hey, what did they do, or what was it different, like in general, if your son lost sleep, if your son didn't lose sleep, or what did you do as a family or as a unit. And I wasn't playing comparing like, oh, my family did was better. I just needed perspective. Like I could ask my mom, but my mom and dad did totally different what it is today. So it's more about working with what's today's real world situation, whether it's like technology or just traveling. And we just discussed a lot on the table. It was not, and I have like a lot in contact with some people, like, hey, what did you do? Or there's some consistent people that I talk to because we're doing the same style. But overall, like, I'll go into more details of each month of the breakdown, not each month by month, but more of like how, like my 1 to 3, my 4 to 6, and 6 months to 12 months more. But this is just an overview of, in general, like what, I guess it's not what I went through, it's just what we went through in general. Because I mean, most of the time I feel like girls get to discuss a lot of this, and some guys discuss, but it's usually just between peer and peer, but not sharing. So I'm sure it was tough, not gonna lie, but overall I'm happy. And my son's about to turn 1, so definitely something we're enjoying this journey, and appreciate so much for you guys watching and tuning in. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to ask. And yeah, I would like to know more, other people's perspective, if they went through what we went through, or you guys went through the same. And definitely thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate it. You all take care of yourselves. Peace.